Hello everyone, my name is Bianca Soriano. Thank you so much for coming in and listening to my speech. To get the ball rolling, I'm just going to ask you guys a couple of questions. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. How many of you here drink a cup of coffee every morning? All right. How much coffee do you drink every morning? A cup, 2 cups, 3?
A venti from Starbucks.
All right, that's okay. That's a pretty large amount. That's okay. You know, we all have those days where we need at least probably like a gallon of coffee to get through the day. That's totally fine. How many of you guys actually think you're addicted to coffee, or how your day goes, or your mood throughout the day actually heavily depends on how much coffee you consume, or if you don't at all? Okay, all right. Well, to start things off, caffeine is actually not just in coffee, and I'm sure a lot of you guys already know that. It's in a lot more things that we eat and drink, even like hot chocolate or just chocolate in general. Decaffeinated coffee also has caffeine, despite the name decaf. It's also in a lot of medication, especially all you ladies out there. It's in PMS medication. So it's actually not super surprising that over 80% of the population here in the United States specifically consumes a caffeinated product each day. If you did say yes to any of the questions that I asked earlier, which obviously all of you guys did, then you do fall under that 80%. And out of habit, I know a lot of us don't really check what's in the nutrition facts or what's in our food. We tend to not really know if there is caffeine in our food or in our beverages, because I don't check all the time. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and say that I am very not conscious about it. Are you guys? Do you check daily? Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. You know, average people are not usually super picky about that or whatever. And since caffeine doesn't really have a specific taste on its own, we tend to not really know anything about that. Now, with all those questions that I just put into your head, and now you're probably overthinking, like, what is the deal with caffeine? Like, is it good for us? Is it bad for us? You know, if it's in all of this stuff that we are consuming, should we be worried about it? I'm here to answer all those questions, and today we're going to talk about the positive and negative effects of caffeine and how much should we actually intake. And hopefully by the end of the speech, you guys know more about what is in that cup of joe of yours. To start things off on a positive note, I do want to start with the positive effects of caffeine, because everyone likes hearing the good news before the bad news. And I know that a lot of us usually get that caffeine for that energy kick in the morning, especially if you're a student, college student like I am, or if you work a job that's 9 to 5 that requires a lot of focusing and alertness. You just want to get that push in the beginning of the day, right? Right. Well, that's not really surprising, because caffeine is actually the most common ingredient in medication that treats symptoms like drowsiness and headaches, and it increases brain activity of dopamine, which promotes alertness and focus, which is what we usually use or drink coffee for. It is also in medications like PMS medication, especially for us ladies over there, because caffeine is actually diuretic, which makes you urinate, which prevents bloating. So that's a really good way for you ladies out there to reduce bloating. You know, PMS medication does have caffeine in it. Yeah, but other than those short-term symptoms that we do use caffeine as a relief for, it does also have benefits for the long-term effects, especially in our health, because it does lower risks of dementia and Alzheimer's, because it helps with our nervous system. But just like everything else, too much of anything is not usually a good thing. I know I said earlier that caffeine is in a lot of our medication that prevents or helps with our headache, but too much of it actually can cause the headache instead of helping them, because it triggers a lot of anxiety and we tend to be a lot more irritable. I know that if I've had at least 2 cups of coffee, anyone that goes up to me, I'm just like, I'm sorry instantly, because I'm just so irritable. Other than the effects that it has on our nervous system, it also does affect our digestive system. I know a lot of you guys who consume coffee probably know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to go into detail. We're going to stay professional here, but other than heartburn, it does upset our stomach. You know, sometimes it's instant, sometimes it's when you're in your desk and you're like, oh, the coffee's really kicking in. You know, like, you know what I'm talking about? Okay. That's good to know that it's not just me, you know. But also, a large amount of coffee actually does contribute to bone thinning. Yeah, I know that's probably one of the things that surprised me the most, and I see in your faces that you are really surprised about that. And it does make your muscles twitch. So if you have a lot of coffee that day and it's a winter, it's probably not because you're cold. It's probably the coffee. Now, with all of those positive and negative effects that I have shown you and talked about, you probably are thinking like, oh, I need to cut back, or I need to just go cold turkey and just cut out caffeine immediately. But cutting out anything from our diets is never really easy, and especially if you are somewhat reliant on it, you know, and you're so used to just waking up and getting that cup of coffee every day. It's usually really hard to just go cold turkey and cut it all out completely. But it is possible to just be more mindful about how much you are intaking and just really know when to stop, because it's good for you. It does have positive effects, but too much of it can cause a lot of, you know, stress in our daily lives instead of helping us relieve those. Despite all the negative effects, it does also have those positive effects for our bodies and our health. So it is okay to keep enjoying that early morning warm or iced, whichever one you prefer, cup of coffee to keep us going through the day and keep our energy levels up, so that we can, you know, get through our work and all of our stuff that needs to be done that day. But we should limit that amount to what is recommended, which is between 200 and 300 milligrams per day, I believe. But you know, as an average person, I don't really measure by milligrams every day, so I would just keep in mind maybe 1 cup of coffee a day is totally okay. Maybe that's all you need, and maybe if you need a little bit more, you can have another cup, but just try to be mindful. All right, well, that's about it. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you guys learn a little bit more about caffeine and are more aware of what you are putting in your body. Yeah, thank you so much, you guys.